Tonight, on Frontline, a blood feud between a radical group and city officials leaves 11 people dead.
As the mayor of the city, I accept full and total responsibility for decisions made.
On May 13th, 1985, an American city dropped a bomb on one of its own neighborhoods. Not during a war, not against a foreign enemy, but against its own citizens.
Is this the penalty for being black in this country?
Within hours, an entire city block would be engulfed in flames. 11 people would be killed, including 5 children. More than 60 homes would be destroyed. And the images that emerged from Philadelphia shocked the nation. But over 40 years later, most Americans have never heard the story. This is the story of the MOVE bombing, and the day America bombed its own people. Before we dive into this story, do subscribe to this channel for more interesting history they buried. To understand what happened on May 13th, 1985, we first have to understand a group called MOVE.
This is MOVE, and this is 309 North 33rd. MOVE is a totally revolutionary organization, and the purpose of MOVE is to exhibit by its activity the purpose of revolution.
MOVE was founded in Philadelphia during the early 1970s by a man named John Africa. Despite the name, John Africa wasn't born in Africa. His birth name was Vincent Leifert. He created MOVE as a radical back-to-nature movement that rejected many aspects of modern society. Members criticized government institutions. They opposed police brutality. They rejected technology. And they lived collectively according to principles laid out by their founder. To supporters, MOVE was a revolutionary movement. To critics, it was disruptive, confrontational, and dangerous. And over time, their relationship with Philadelphia authorities became increasingly hostile. By the late 1970s, the conflict between MOVE and Philadelphia police had already turned violent. In 1978, a confrontation at MOVE's headquarters led to a deadly shootout. One police officer was killed. Several MOVE members were arrested and later imprisoned. The event deepened mistrust on both sides. For city officials, MOVE was becoming a serious problem. For MOVE members, the government had become an enemy. The years that followed only increased tensions. Neighbors complained about loudspeaker broadcasts. Authorities accused MOVE members of violating housing codes. MOVE accused the city of harassment and intimidation. The conflict wasn't cooling down. It was escalating. By 1985, MOVE had relocated to a row house on Osage Avenue in West Philadelphia. The neighborhood was mostly residential. Families lived there. Children played there. Ordinary people went about their daily lives. But tensions continued to grow. City officials believed MOVE members inside the house were heavily armed. Neighbors complained about confrontations and noise. And eventually, Philadelphia authorities decided they had had enough. A plan was developed to remove MOVE members from the property. What happened next would become one of the most controversial police operations in American history. On the morning of May 13th, hundreds of police officers surrounded the MOVE house. Residents in nearby homes were evacuated. Authorities issued demands for MOVE members to surrender, but they refused. Soon, gunfire erupted. Police fired thousands of rounds. Tear gas was deployed. Water cannons were used. Yet hours passed without a resolution. The standoff dragged on, and then city officials approved a decision that would change everything. At approximately 5:27 p.m., a state police helicopter flew over the MOVE house. On board was an explosive device. Officials planned to destroy a fortified bunker located on the roof. After a while, the bomb was dropped. An explosion ripped through the building. Smoke rose into the air, and then a fire began. At first, authorities believed the fire could be controlled, but the flames spread rapidly. And in one of the most controversial decisions of the day, officials allowed the fire to continue burning. The blaze quickly jumped from house to house. Soon, an entire neighborhood was on fire. The fire consumed block after block. Residents watched helplessly as their homes disappeared. Smoke filled the sky. Families lost everything. By the time the fire was finally extinguished, More than 60 homes had been destroyed. 11 people inside the move house were dead. 5 of them were children. Only 2 occupants survived. The images looked less like a police operation and more like the aftermath of a battlefield. Yet this wasn't a war zone. This was Philadelphia. As footage spread across television screens, Americans struggled to process what they were seeing. How had a conflict between police and a local group ended with a bomb being dropped on a residential neighborhood? Questions emerged immediately. Who approved the operation? Why was the fire allowed to spread? Could the deaths have been prevented? Could the destruction have been avoided? Investigations soon followed, and many of the findings were deeply critical of city officials. An investigative commission later described the decision to drop the bomb as reckless. The handling of the fire drew widespread condemnation. Yet despite the criticism, few officials faced serious consequences. The move bombing remains one of the most extraordinary and controversial incidents in modern American history. A city government authorized the use of an explosive device against a residential building. The resulting fire destroyed an entire neighborhood. Children died, families lost their homes, and questions about responsibility continued decades later. Today, the story stands as a reminder of what can happen when fear, mistrust, and power collide. Because history is not only shaped by the events we remember. Sometimes, it's shaped by the stories we choose to forget.
We call it institutionalized racism, and that's exactly what it was. Because we were black and because the institution has a way of handling black people, you understand, through the system, you understand, it didn't matter whether Wilson Goode was black or whether Wilson Goode was white. It's the institution. It's the governmental institution. This is the way we handle black people.